and that's currently it for us. I have no elephants, and my expectation is we make progress tonight.
Frankly, doing well, no time constraints, missing has been.
Good evening, Heather Leonard. I'm doing well tonight. I don't have any time constraints. I think the missing have been noted. No elephants, expectations, make progress.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Kelfie. I'm doing well. No time constraints, missing noted. No elephants and expectations, make progress.
I'm Mike Gatewood. I'm doing great. I have no time constraints. Missing is noted, no elephants. Expectation, make progress.
Good afternoon, Mike Robichaud, Director of Insurance and Benefits Management. I'm doing well. I do not have any time constraints. Missing is noted, no elephants in the room, and I'll go with make progress.
Good afternoon, my name is Ben, I'm doing great. I have no time constraints, missing is noted, no elephants, expectations, make progress.
Sure. I'm Shannon Johnston. I'm doing great. I do have a time constraint at 5:45. Hopefully this is the last one. And no elephants. And my expectation is to make progress.
Jessica Duncan, I'm doing well. I do have a time constraint. I have some meeting at 4:30, but I will return after that. Missing has been noted. No elephants. My expectation is to make progress.
Horace McIntosh, Assistant School Board Attorney, no time restraints. Missing has been noted. Elephants in the room, expectations, make progress. And to be warmer, it's cold in here.
It is.
Hello, I am Helen Martin. I am doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants, expectations, make progress, and be warmer.
Hi, Ann Cole. I'm well, no time constraints, missing has been noted, no elephants, and I will go with make progress.
Thank you. Switch over to Kurt.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Kurt Fazone. I'm doing well. No time constraints. Missing on our side, I think it's just Lewis.
Shay.
Oh, and Shay. Shay's on her way.
Oh, that's right. Is Lewis
L-U-I-S.
He's preparing students for a band competition, I believe.
excellent.
No elephants, and I'll go with make progress.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kevin Neely. I'm the president of the Teachers Association of Lee County. I am fine. No time constraints other than 7. I do have a meeting at 8, but I won't interfere with this. Missing has been noted. No elephants, though I am glad I kept my jacket on today. And we'll make progress, please.
Hi, I'm Jill Castellano. I am the Vice President of TALC and a teacher at Cypress Lake Middle. I'm doing quite well. I don't have any time constraints. Missing has been noted, no elephants, and my expectation is to make progress.
Good afternoon, my name is Anna Witten. I am a 4th grade teacher at Franklin Park Elementary as well as the TALC secretary. I'm doing fine. I have no time constraints, missing is noted, no elephants, and let's make progress.
Good afternoon, my name is Amy Johnson. I am a teacher at Mariner Middle School. I am doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted, no elephants, and I'll make progress, or want to make progress also. Hopefully I make progress too.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Iris Grimaldi, and effective today, I am now a licensed mental health professional. I am doing fine. I have no time constraints. Missing have been noted, no elephants, and expectation is to make progress.
Good evening, my name is LaShonda Hutchins Cologne, and I'm the grade 3 through 5 math coach at Franklin Park Elementary, as well as 4th grade math teacher. I have no time constraints, missing as noted, no elephants, and also want to make progress.
Good evening, Mario Lewis-Stahl, teacher of mathematics, Fort Myers High School. I'm doing well, missing is noted, I have no elephants, and I'd like to make progress.
I'm Heather Rodriguez-Wibbles, I'm fine, I have no time constraints, I noted are missing, no elephants, make progress.
I'm Christina Stewart, I am the K-5 art teacher at Tortuga. I'm doing well, no time constraints, missings noted, no elephants, and expectations make progress.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Mark Mancia, I'm doing well, I have no time constraints, missing is noted, and no elephants, and expectations make progress.
I'm French, I'm doing well, I do not have any time constraints, we're all here. I do not have any elephants, and our expectations are to help you make progress.
And I'm Donna Munzenard, I'm doing well, no time constraints, and again, my expectation is to help you make progress. You do have an agenda in front of you, and on the agenda tonight is approval of minutes, Article 2, Article 15, Article 5, all the snapshots are on the wall. And I was asked that we add calendar tonight because I guess there was a discussion of maybe having to add some extra days. So let's do the minutes first and then we can do calendar. Anybody have any changes or deletions to the minutes? I know you got them quickly. Anna? And then Amy?
On the very first page, underneath expectations, second bullet, it says get off to as good start. I think it should be a good start. That's all I have.
Oh, okay, that was easy. Amy?
Say that again,
As needs to be a.
I got it.
I'm not sure how we wrote this, but at the end of norms, it says silent cell phones, and usually it's silenced cell phones, so I don't know if that's supposed to be silent or silence. And the rest are just capitalization errors. If you want me to just send do you want me to send it to you?
I don't want you to tell me or send them.
Okay.
No.
Whatever, send it to me.
All right, I figured I would do that because it would take less time.
In their minutes, it's not
There's not-
grammatically correct, this is not a document that's
It's
written
actually,
in that form, so.
I thought they were really well done. There were just a few capitalization errors, and I was like, it's not really that big a deal, but.
If you didn't call them errors, I wouldn't have reacted the way I did.
I am an ELA teacher.
Anybody else? Kurt?
All right, I have a few here. On page 4, I guess that's under story for Article 7. It's missing, TALC mentioned Article 7.01, 1B, employee lunches. We wanted to discuss moving those to 40 minutes.
Article
7.01, parentheses 1, parentheses B.
No, Article 7's not up there tonight.
And what is it?
Employee lunches was the discussion, 40 minutes. There were also 2 data requests that were missing. So how was this phrased? One was what the approximate cost of moving everyone to the 8-hour paid workday would be. And I believe Kevin asked under data request for how the district would have funded that move to the 8-hour day after the expiration of ESSER, what that plan was.
Got it? No, okay.
The cost of moving everyone to the,
8-hour day.
This is all under Article 7, sorry. Okay, what was the second one? I'm so sorry.
It was the sustainability plan on how the district would have funded that after ESSER expired. That was a data request as well,
Funding what?
the move to the 8-hour day. Under Article 10, story, class coverage was missing.
Article 10, story, class coverage was missing.
Sorry, that's
That's
okay.
okay.
Staying with Article 10, under data request, we asked about Medicaid billable hours, where that money goes. I'm sorry, I just have one more thing.
At the very bottom.
Like this big maybe. It's Article 11.
What?
In Article 11, there were 2 data requests. Cost of life insurance. We talked about various increases to the employee life insurance and what those costs would look like. Yeah, I guess it was a data request.
So it wasn't, you simply asked, you said you wanted to talk about it.
Oh, I thought we asked for a data request. So I have it in my notes under
I'm
data
just
request.
copies what was on the sheet last time, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So are you making that request?
Sure, yes. Also making a data request for the cost of the wellness incentive. That's it. That's just.
Okay, that's it. All right, last time we did set a calendar for every other Monday, but it was discussed that we may need to add some more dates just in case we don't finish by that May, to give us a better chance of finishing by the May date, let's put it that way. So who wants to speak to that? Rob?
Yeah, I looked at the calendar today and I have some dates and I'm just gonna throw them out there and see what folks think. The first one would be next Wednesday, March 6th.
Kevin?
The first and third Wednesdays are taken up by TALC meetings.
Okay. So we are meeting on March 11th, even though it hasn't been put on our calendars, right?
That would be the Monday
Yeah.
after, 2 weeks after today.
So then I have the 28th of March, because that 1 week is spring break, so. Yes, that's a Thursday. Is that before Good Friday, is that what you said? Okay.
So it works.
It's only Thursday.
Right. Anybody yet?
Nobody was impressed that I did.
Okay, do you have any other?
28th is good?
Is the 28th good?
I think people are looking, I don't know.
March 28th.
Does the 28th work or not work?
Say again now.
Is it good?
I think it works for the vast majority.
Okay, perfect.
So March 28th, we have that?
Yeah.
And then I have April 3rd, but that's a first Wednesday, so withdrawn. April 11th, it's a Thursday. That's Elizabeth's birthday, so we'd have a special treat.
Unfortunately, barring on people's birthdays has become the norm.
Yes. I do, I have this is now, 28th.
Does the 11th work?
11th for everybody? Okay, for the most part, you're good to go, okay?
Should we try to do one more? I mean, I only have 3 more dates here, and one of them's the 3rd Wednesday, so that won't work.
Right.
The 18th of April? Thursday?
No, it's the day before mine, though. April 18th, we're on April now, okay? All right.
I think we're good. No, I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay, and the dates for the every other Mondays will be sent out as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Well, the 11th is.
March 11th, April 8th, April 22nd, 11 and 25, and then 8 and 22.
Okay. Thank you, that wasn't too bad. The next thing on the agenda is Article 2. Rights, privileges, responsibilities. We have a very short snapshot. Language in regards to to-dos removal needs to be removed. To-dos deduction needs to be removed. Rob?
I think Kevin had his hand up before me.
Oh, did he? I'm sorry.
It's all good. We're going to be talking about the same stuff.
Okay.
We're also adding another one-word change to another section of that. What section is that? 2.6. Item 6. Which is association league. So we'd like to make a change there too. Right.
Yes.
Yes, 2E.
Okay, regarding paragraph 5 of 2.03, which is on page 4 of the contract, last legislative session, the legislature passed language, which is now 447.303 Florida statutes, which does not allow an employer to deduct dues assessments for certified bargaining agents such as TALC. So the language that specifies that we were permitted to do that and directed us to do that in the contract is no longer valid, shall I say. So we're just, well, I don't want to put an option up.
Okay. Any more story to that? Kurt?
I guess no story to that piece. It was Senate Bill 256. Did you say 447.303? Thank you. I guess just for the story, we're interested in, I guess, how can I say it? We're interested in maybe putting a line in there that if the law changes, what's the board's appetite for bringing back payroll dues deduction if the law changes?
Wow, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that as I sit here today. I will say this, neither the board nor the superintendent took a position on this legislation, so.
Okay. Kevin?
I think as we look at this, oftentimes, I'm always cognizant of the fact that this document will hopefully live on beyond all of us. And so I think sometimes in the contract we reference statute, so I think kind of what we were looking at is pursuant to 447.0 payroll deduction is no longer allowed. If that changes, there's a commitment to come back to the table and renegotiate. I think we want that enshrined so that, in 50 years, if there's a change in leadership in Tallahassee and we get the ability to have payroll deduction back, those people that are in our chairs today will kind of be held to the idea that we'll go back and talk about it. That it was only kind of pulled from our cold dead hands, and we'll go back and talk about it if the law changes. I think that's kind of where our idea came from.
So I heard kind of an option in there.
Kind of a poorly worded option.
Right, but
yes.
Everything gets refined when the language is written.
So kind of you say. Thank you.
So the option would be to, say it again, Kevin, please, for Amy to write.
I'll jump in. I think Kevin wants something that starts with, pursuant to Florida statute 447.303, payroll deduction is no longer allowed in the event that the law changes, the parties agree to. It's basically impact bargaining. Renegotiate the language, something along those lines. Much better math on the fly than word.
Okay, well, I think we get the general idea anyway of what you're looking for, so.
Yeah, thank you.
That's fine. Rob, anything to add, Rob?
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, we've been here through a lot of changes that have impacted teachers over the last 20 years, and when things have been removed by the law, we've removed them from the contract. So I understand your point. I don't think there would be any objection whatsoever. I know it outlives us, but if something is bargainable or is made bargainable again by the legislature, then you guys would bargain it again. I'm not quite sure what preserving language would do. If we wanted to do that, we could go back to tenure and professional services contracts and contracts. I mean, I can go through the contract and see all the language that we've removed over the years. So I thought this was a simple thing, frankly.
Kurt.
Yeah, I guess it's unfortunately not so simple, because a right was taken away, and I think it speaks to our interest-based relationship that we clearly have an interest in payroll dues deduction. I don't see what the harm would be for just enshrining a commitment to sitting back down if something were to change, rather than going through some sort of formal, negotiation process.
Any other options?
Well, frankly put, I don't have authority to agree to that this evening, so I was hopeful we'd get a quick orange circle, but I'm not seeing that happening. So there may absolutely be no objection to that, but I have not been presented with that language before tonight, so.
Okay, so do we need to table this to our next meeting? Will you be able to get some sort of?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Is that okay with everybody to table to the next meeting till we get authority?
There's been an ask to read the options so that folks can.
Sure.
So pursuant to statute, I did my signature, please. That's right. Payroll deduction no longer allowed in the event the statute is changed, parties to agree to renegotiating the ability to collect dues. Thank you.
Anything else needed? Any other story or options to put up there before we put Article 2, table Article 2 till the 11th?
We still have one item in number 6 that's not related to dues deduction.
I'm sorry, that's right. We're tabling this part of Article 2. So the article is 2 point, what on the other one?
This one should be quick. It's 2.03. Oh yeah, I just stepped in it, didn't I? 2.03 in parentheses 6.
And story for this?
Really quick, we're only looking at item A. The agreement allows for the release of the TALC president for the years of the term of office. We would like to change the word may to shall.
Yeah. No.
In line 28.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay. Just tell me what I need to say.
Option 2 for
Sure.
Article 2?
Yeah, that's fine. I can just tell you what the option is.
Go ahead.
So in line 28, we want to strike the word may and add the word shall, and then a comma. So add shall, comma, at the sole discretion of the association. DISCRETION, I believe, of the association.
Anything else, Carl?
No, I know that we do story first, but just a little background. We've never had issues with the release of the union president, but just wanted to make this language a little stronger. As long as the association can afford to do it, continue to have a release time president.
Okay, anybody else? Rob?
Donna, you may have to step outside the box here. Do you know the history of this language at all? I don't know why May was agreed upon in the past. Do you have any?
I don't know the full history. I know it was first as a grant from NEA back when Patty Lochner was president. And then gradually the association, as they got more members, took it over. They had 3 years to do that. So it must have been put in during that time, which was probably a little bit before I was really involved with negotiations and everything. So I really don't know why they put may instead of shall. And it's just gone on like that ever since, so I guess nobody really looked at it.
So,
right.
Just help me out with the sole discretion language. Where does that go?
After the word may, just president of the association shall, comma, at the sole discretion of the association, comma, be granted personal leave. I flipped it off.
Anything else? Rob?
Well, leaves go to the board, and the board has the vote on items, and putting the word shall in there takes away their ability to vote on this. So that's probably why may is in there.
Probably. Okay, point taken. Kerr?
So does that mean that the board could just decide through a majority vote that they don't want to have the union president released from their job for a year? And that's kind of the worry, that as politics ebbs and flows with an elected superintendent, and this is really kind of union business.
Well, the president's an employee of the district, so, I mean, I understand it's union business. I don't, for 1 minute, hesitate to agree with you on that point. But the person is an employee of the district. And so the board, therefore, just like they would for anybody else sitting in this room, absent you, Kerr, and Donna, have to approve a person's long-term leave. So I've never, in almost 17 years in the district, seen that happen. But I suspect that's why may is in there, because it would then take away the ability of the board potentially to exercise their discretion as a school.
Anything else? Mike?
Does the word may
Does the word may also protect TALC? Because if it was shall, and you were elected but TALC couldn't afford to pay your salary, we would have to put you on unpaid leave per the agreement, and TALC would have to find the money to pay you?
I think that's where at the discretion of the association comes in. You know, I have a board of 15 people, and so, you know, I don't spend money without asking at least 8 of them to agree with me. So again, I think that's where the at discretion goes of the board. Again, as Donna said, it's a grant. I'm just gonna, you know, there are criteria within FEA to be a release president, right? There are plenty of locals around the state where the group's just not big enough to have somebody even on a partial leave. So in the places where it is, it's kind of the, I don't want to say the expectation, but it's, you know, we meet the criteria with FEA to be released. And again, even though Board Chair Fisher, who I have a relationship outside of his role, at one point said he was gonna, you know, as a joke, hold up my letter, but not really mean it. I can see a time with an elected superintendent and, you know, a different board and the things we're going through to recertify and things like that. When you get to somewhere like Volusia, where the district is actively engaging in union busting techniques and actively calling PERC to make complaints, that a board there may exercise, for the first time in the history of the union, not allowing the person to be a release president. So again, this is something to protect the position as long as we're able to have the position. And, you know, if we can't afford it and we make the fiduciary decision to do it anyway, I think there are consequences outside of us, outside of the district making the position an unpaid position. And, you know, I mean, I know in DeSoto, Jerry is retired and he's the president. So at that point, nobody has any say about it. But, you know, that falls upon us to be reasonable stewards with our members' money and make sure we can afford it. And then there's a consequence for us if we don't. Just look at, what's the guy's name in Miami-Dade? Tornello in Miami-Dade, who made some very stupid decisions and wasted members' dues dollars. And, you know, they came and gave him an orange jumpsuit for a while, which he wholeheartedly deserved. So again, our business was an idea to protect the position against, again, a board in the future when none of us are here, or a board in the distant future or the near future. So that was the intent behind this.
Thank you. Anything else? Carol Kerr.
Just real quickly, I'm looking at some contracts across the state, and just one from the Seminole Education Association says, should the association decide to have a full-time release president, the board shall place the teacher in the status of teacher on assignment. So we're trying to mimic some sort of language around that, or, you know, kind of of the same flavor.
Anything else? Rob?
Yeah, I don't have any, we don't have any inherent objection to what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the language needs some work. And I don't know how we go about crafting that. I mean, we can certainly trade things back and forth, but I do think putting a shall before discretionary language is always somewhat, when it comes to statutory construction or drafting of language, seems a little bit strange in and of itself. So I think we would, the premise understood,
okay,
but I think if we need to finesse language.
So could
Jill has a little,
okay, go ahead, Jill.
So after hearing from Kevin and Kerr, and then from Rob and from Gatewood, because you brought up a really good point. Like, what if we look at our budget and we have some concerns. So, and this is not perfectly wordsmith, right? But starting at line 28, where it says the president of the association may be granted personal leave for the school year, and then in parentheses, years of their term of office. What if we changed it to the president of the association? When you're ready, Amy.
And then when we start there, that's what.
Yes, that's fine, yeah. I just didn't want to just talk and then you not be ready to. will be granted personal leave for the school year, and then the S in parentheses, of their term of office when requested by the association. So we have to request that our president be full-time released, which gives us the opportunity that if we look at our financials and say we cannot afford, then we don't ask. And the president would then, I assume, go back in a classroom based on other language.
It used to be professional leave. Is it still professional or is it personal leave? It's still professional.
Personal.
Oh, it's personal now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Some good thoughts over here on my side, listening to Jill. Somehow if we could, the district will recommend to the board something to that effect. I don't know if that would be palatable, something to that effect. Because then the board still has an up or down vote, which they will always have.
Go ahead, Anna.
Just for clarity purposes, for what you were adding, are you taking away still the request from TALC? Like when you added recommended to the board, are you recommending to the board after TALC requests it?
Correct, yeah. So we will have, per that language, it would have to go to the board.
Right, because it says in here.
Which is essentially, just so you know, in practice, how it works.
Right, and it says that such leave shall be granted with the same privilege and benefits approved with personal leave for other employees. So to me, I interpret that it's the same process of if I needed to take a day. I know that, I know it's more than a day,
yeah.
but.
If I want to go on extended leave.
Right, it's that same process.
Except yours doesn't have to go to the board for approval for one day.
Well, my maternity leave does, I'm
Yeah.
pregnant.
Ron? Okay. Anything else? All right, we now have 4 options up here. One we said we're going to hold off on because Rob wants to check to see how the board feels about that, or the superintendent about the language to automatically have a discussion.
Deduction.
Yeah, the deduction
Yes.
stuff. And then Article 2, it says in line 28, strike may and add shall at the sole discretion of the association. 3 says the president of the association will be granted leave when requested by the association. And 4 says the district will recommend to the board that they grant the leave, whatever. Rob?
Yeah, not sure if this is the time, but we also wanted to talk about subparagraph 10.
Oh.
Which requires us to print a whole bunch of contracts.
All right, so are we done with the options and discussion of the President Association League? Okay, then we can go into that other.
Okay, so on page 5, 2.0310 requires within 30 days of approval of the final draft of a contract that the district provide 150 copies of the agreement. This is outdated language from days gone by when print was the way of doing business. What we have no problem doing is asking each school to print 1 copy of the contract for the rep, which amounts to about 100 contracts. But it would be done at the site and not through the print shop. And basically, they go on the website and print out the contract like any of us can. So for the rep. So that's what the story is there. We just feel like this language is outdated, but we understand there's a need for something in writing.
I see Kevin and then Anna.
Do you still provide printed copies to administrators?
Do you still provide printed copies to administrators?
No, only like, I printed mine out for myself, frankly.
Anna?
I'm just gonna say that there's some value in having a bounded TALC contract. As a person who, yeah, I can go online, but there is value in having it, and when it's with a binder clip, holding it all together, it's not as easy to flip through. So there is value still in having the printed spiral bound contract. I've been missing one and feel like I have a grievance to file. I'm joking. There is value in them.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't done bounded contracts in 2 years, so
Okay.
I'd be more than happy to get you a binder and put holes in them for you.
It's not the same.
Okay, anything else on contracts? Kevin?
How much does it cost to print 150 contracts, approximately?
Anybody know the cost of printing 150 contracts?
You have to go to the print shop for a page.
Do we believe in a significant amount of money?
Yes.
I would be interested in knowing what the cost is, no matter what we agree to here tonight. The cost is not gonna ham up thing, I just wanna know how much it costs to print 150 of them.
Okay, we'll have to, I guess that information will have to.
And does that money belong to me?
If you notice, my story had nothing to do with cost.
Right. Right. So, do you want to put that option up there though to?
Yes.
Okay, put the data request, that should go under story. Yeah, you can put it there and too, and then put it on the minutes for tonight. The cost to print 150 copies through the print shop, through the district print shop. Kurt?
Yeah, just, I think from our perspective, I don't necessarily agree that it's outdated language. I mean, I think it's important that the employer is able to provide that written contract to the employees. We haven't filed a grievance over it the last 2 years. It doesn't really make it an outdated, type of thing. I am curious, as we're talking about the cost, was that bargaining authority money, or was that out of a different line item?
It's out of compensation and labor relations budget.
Okay, we have that bit of information. Do you want to put your option up, your story up as an option, Rob?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know if we have room on the rest of the options for Article 2, probably not. Go ahead.
Basically, schools, upon ratification, schools/work sites will provide a written copy of the agreement to the TALC site representative.
Amy, could you reread, please?
Sure. Upon ratification, school/worksite will provide a written agreement to the site representative.
Kevin?
I think maybe we should I think that language right there is right for a grievance on a Tuesday will be ratified on Monday. I'm just talking out loud. Upon ratification.
Well, it says within 30 days in the current provision, so.
Okay, I was going with a rewrite of the whole thing, so. I was going with a rewrite, so we're gonna stick with 30 days?
It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just don't want us to get in a situation where, the day after it's ratified, we get,
Instead of upon ratification, say within 30 days.
Yeah.
Within 30 days of ratification.
Right.
Amy has her hand up, unless you have something else, Kevin?
I don't.
Okay, well,
It's something really simple.
that's all right, we still do need the mic.
Instead of written, can we say printed?
In color?
It doesn't need to be in color. I don't want anybody to have to write that thing.
Yeah, printed, you're right. In crayon.
Highlighter.
All right, we changed written to printed, with everybody's agreement. Anything else? Jill?
I have a couple questions. Who's responsible for printing this and putting it in the binder?
What was the question?
Who's responsible for printing it and putting it in a binder?
The principal or the supervisor of the work site.
Okay, did you have another question, Jill, or that was the only one? Okay. Kevin?
So, this leads me to, I guess, segue into something else that's board policy related. With all the dust up around the board policies, including the Riverdale policy that has been recently written, I found it said that the district will give teachers everything they need to do their job. So I'm not sure how we accommodate that in the contract, but that means nobody should be buying pencils, and nobody should be buying paper, and nobody should have a copier. Because if you need it to do your job, board policy says the district shall provide it. So I'm not sure where that fits, but that's certainly something we're going to press here however we can when the board policies come up. So,
Our story.
Our story, how you can mark it however you want, but.
Would that be part of Article 2? Or another article?
It came from board policy, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. On with what we have up there right now. Are we finished with the contract, number of contracts, et cetera, who's going to be responsible?
We are, I mean, there's an option up there that I'd frankly like to test, but I don't know.
Well, there was a request for
Down off
data.
track a little bit.
Kevin?
I don't think the data request is going to jam up the ability to make a decision, but I think we need to maybe take 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
To talk about the totality of things.
Okay.
All right?
All right. That works.
So they're caucusing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all right.
I believe Per started, called the caucus first with TALC before the executive caucus.
Thank you. We discussed specifically in Article 2, just our general feelings around the dues deduction option that we put up. We did neglect in our option about the release time. We want to add to make sure the 255-day work calendar is enshrined in there. Spout ran into a similar issue in years past because it wasn't specific. So I don't know, maybe I can just make another option, but we'll need to, I want to make sure that it does say that there's a 255-day calendar. And we discussed the printing of the contracts. I've got some more story for that, but I think after that, I think that was all done. And we discussed the same thing in the executive caucus, but if you have something.
You have something to add, Rob?
Yeah, no, I appreciate Kurt and Kevin asking us to executive caucus. So I think we can cover all three of these issues because some things have been clarified.
Okay.
I would simply say that as far as the printing of the contracts, the only language that Kurt suggested, which I have no problem with, is that we would print the number of contracts for each school to have one. So it's currently 150, we have less than 150 schools. So that's an option.
So the other option, okay. So print one copy per school, or per school and per site?
Per one school and work, yeah, per location, thank you.
Okay.
All right, anything else with the executive caucus?
Well, I do, but maybe we could test that?
Number 7?
Yeah.
Can you just read it again?
Sure.
Thank you.
For one copy of the contract per location.
On print shop or at the school?
Per job.
Okay, Jill?
In the past, those printed contracts were given to TALC and we dispersed them, or we stayed in status quo with that piece?
Yes, as far as I didn't even know that, okay.
Anna?
Are we keeping the 30-day language?
Yes.
Any other questions or clarifications needed? All right, we've had a call to test number 7. Print one copy of the contract per location from the print shop. I see thumbs. All right, we're good. Anything else, Rob?
Well, it's their pleasure whether they want to bring back the 255-day, or I'm sorry, the association leave or the dues deduction.
Okay. All right, Kevin?
I think we'll bring back both of them. Whichever order you desire to have them in is up to you.
Okay. Do we need to bring the options from those
Yes.
up here? Okay.
And I have another thing in too that's a real pain. We don't have a pony stop. So when somebody sends us something through the pony, we have to come down here and get it. And when we send something through the pony, we have to bring it here to have it delivered. I do know that there's a cost to additional pony stops, but we are right across the street from South Fort Myers High School and the charter schools may or may not get pony services, but it's always kind of hurts me that I don't have a pony stop. That's a personal thing.
Do you have a way to tie up the pony? Sorry.
No, I do not have a way to tie up the pony. Not hijacking.
Do you have a hitching rail outside the office?
I can add one. If that's the
that joke failed.
If that's the problem, I'll handle that.
I'll look into it for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, back to the options, Kurt or Kevin, or,
Let's tackle dues deduction first.
okay?
We had an option up that, I think it's option 1.
You want to read it?
Which, just to make sure that I was clear, my option 1 would be a complete strike of the current language and replace with that. Maybe that's a good starting point.
So I'm going to add to number 1 saying complete strike of,
Complete strike, yes. Yep,
complete strike of what was it?
the current.
Current language.
2.035. What was it at? 2.035.
Yes.
Paragraph 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Kurt, more?
That was the option 1.
Could Amy read the language?
Yes.
Complete strike of 2.035 and pursuant to statute that will fill in payroll deduction no longer allowed. In the event the statute is changed, parties to agree to renegotiating the ability to collect dues. And that will be clearly wordsmithed.
Right.
Okay, so the one thing that happened in the executive caucus that Kurt clarified for us was that the language is going to be stricken as currently written. And I will say that that wasn't clear to me initially. So I think we can go ahead and test that.
All right. Then we would like to test option 1. Does anybody need it read again?
Yes.
Please.
Okay. Complete strike of 2.035 in pursuant to statute of the payroll deduction no longer allowed. In the event the statute is changed, parties to agree to renegotiating the ability to collect dues.
All right. May I see thumbs, please? All right, another orange circle. And you said you had another one that was already up here you wanted to talk about, Kurt?
I did. It was about, yeah, I think it's, yeah, 2.03 parentheses 6 parentheses A. Maybe some sort of straw design between options 2 and 4.
Okay.
With, I'm going to make it very complicated, with maybe a new option that enshrines the fact that the TALC president works a 255-day contract.
Okay, so we have that option already up there. That's number 6.
Yep, 6. Okay, so some
Can you
type
read
of
option
a,
6?
do you want me to
Would
read
you
2, 4, and 6?
That'd be great, please.
2 says in line 28, strike may, and add shall at the sole discretion of the association. 4 is the district will recommend to the board, ... And 6 is TALC to add the option for the president to include a quote-unquote 255-day calendar.
All right, then perhaps a straw design of those 3, and we can wordsmith it so it reads in a decent way.
Yeah, that's not contract ready. Rob?
So in that case, I just want to kind of clarify the intent of what we're trying to do, I think, in a interest-based way. We are enshrining that the president works for 255 days, that TALC will make the decision whether or not that person will be in that position full-time, and that once TALC makes that decision, we pledge or shall bring that item to the board. Is that?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
None for me.
All right, anybody want to test that straw design? Okay, Rob said he's willing to test the straw design. May I see thumbs for straw design of option 2, option 4, and option 6? Okay, that's done. Anything else on Article 2?
For once, I think we're finished. With Article 2.
All right, good job. Okay. Article 2 is complete. The next one on the agenda was Article 15, duration. Do we have any story on Article 15 duration other than the fact that extend dates to FY27? And there's an elephant in the room due to TALC certification. The interest for CBA provides stability, manageability, staff morale, and staff retention. Any other story? Yes, Rob.
So we had labor management in between last session and this session, and I asked about this item, and it was clarified for me that the desire is to add an addition, like we have for the last several years, simply add another year to the back end of the contract. So there is no elephant in the room because I was the one that put that up there.
Okay,
that's good. I needed that clarification. I thought we were talking about a multi-year contract at this setting, which we are not. So clarified.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right, do we have an official, let's let Amy catch up here.
Okay.
Ready?
And what's the point,
There's no longer an elephant in the room because clarification was provided to extend for 1 year. All right, now we're ready for an option. Kirk?
All right, Amy, it kind of comes in three pieces, it's all connected. So this is 15.03. We'll strike FY24 from the beginning of that sentence and add FY27 to the end. So then in the next line, this is all in the same option.
Okay.
The date, March 31, 2024, would change to March 31, 2025. And in the next item there, the date June 30, 2025 will move to June 30, 2026.
Anything else?
No. What, is this a new, like, option 1 or?
yeah, we did option
Yeah, okay.
for, what is this, Article 15?
Article 15, yeah.
Yeah, it's the one and only option so far. Anything else?
And so that was all one option.
All one.
Perfect.
Yeah, nothing else in this article.
Okay. If there's no other clarification needed, question Mike?
1506.
Yes. 1506 needs to be changed to 2027.
Oh, thank you. You can add, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you for the picking up.
June 30, 2026 would go to 2027.
All right, anything else? We're ready to test, okay? Anybody need it read back? All right, nobody needs it read back, and I see thumbs. Thank you.
Okay, good.
And while he's doing that, I'm going to pause because we had 2 people come in while groups were caucusing. And we had Carl and Shay came in, and Amy came in. So go ahead, Amy.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Amy Desmore. Just fine. I do have a time constraint this evening of 6:15. No elephants, and my expectations are that we make progress.
Thank you. And Carl?
Hi, I'm Carl. I'm doing okay. No time constraints since I was already running late. I guess missing's been noted. No elephants, expectations, make progress.
Okay, thank you. And over here, Shay came in.
Good evening. Good evening. Shay Pearson. I'm testing coordinator at Elmhurst High School. I'm the top treasurer. I'm doing as well as we expected. No time constraints because I was late. No elephants. Missing has been noted, and I'd like to make progress.
All right, thank you. I think that covered everybody that came in later. With that, the next thing on our agenda is Article 5. And for story in Article 5 on the snapshot, we had language for employees that leave virtual school, discuss the timeline for mid-year transfers, TALC, dress code, constraints for annual contract teachers, interest for staff morale, employee retention, compliance questions and manageability, and the data requested was dress code from all schools' handbooks.
Donna, while you're there,
yeah.
I think that should say contracts for annual contract, not constraints.
Oh, it does say contracts, sorry, constraints for annual contract.
I think I was talking about extended contracts, not constraints.
Extended contracts.
And while we're up there, the legislature hasn't moved any type of extended contract bill, so we're not prepared to talk about that today.
So there's no need to discuss it?
Not today.
Not yet. Okay. All right, so what do we want to tackle first? Kevin?
We'll go with mid-year transfers. And Kerr's union says once he gets forward circles, he can go home for the night. So yeah, he's going to take a few minutes and step out and handle some business. But we can start with mid-year transfers, I guess.
Okay.
Don't ask me what article it is. It would probably be a new one. Or a new subset or whatever.
Yeah.
503 is transfers.
503 transfers, so probably in that language somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in 503, AVX.
503-ish, yeah, that's good. All right. Go ahead, Kevin.
So I guess this has been kind of on our radar for a few years. And honestly, as I've heard at this table in my at least 8 or 9 years of doing this, different roles, is we tend to be negotiating for the extremes. And so what ends up happening is, for whatever reason, an employee wants to change locations. Either, they want to be closer to their house, they want to go into the zone, they just want to, it's a bad experience, they want a fresh start. Typically what happens is, they have to apply for a new job and get it, and then once they apply for the new job and get it at the new school, there's no mechanism to ensure that the employee is allowed to leave prior to the end of their contract in May. And so what I end up having to counsel people is that there are 2 roads an administrator can take. One is, generally speaking, hey, thanks for letting me know. Live your best life, find your happiness, hope you're happy, and good luck. And another one is, hey, thanks for letting me know. I need to find your replacement, and then we enter into some kind of chasm that has no bottom. And then what happens is sometimes the new job gets pulled, because of course the principal at the new school needs to find somebody in the classroom. The employees' morale sinks. They don't understand why they can't be allowed to leave. So I think this is just finding a way to put a timeline. I know SPALC has a timeline, I think, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that sometimes SPALC is going from one job category to another that may see an increase in pay. And not to belittle my SPALC brothers and sisters, but sometimes it's easier to hire somebody in a custodial or a food service role than it is a teacher. It may not be the case, but sometimes it is. And so this was just an idea to talk out here with administrators in the room and district staff in the room and us in the room about what that would look like. I mean, again, I tell people, if your principal has not said, okay, in 2 weeks, you can go, I tell people, call me in 6 or 7 weeks. Because, you got to advertise the position, people have to apply, you have to interview. If they're a brand new employee from outside, they have to go through the HR process. So it can be a time-consuming process to hire the right people, because we want to do those steps to make sure we hire the best people to be in the classrooms. But I think there's probably some middle ground here to be kind of developed around the idea that there is some kind of enforceable timeline. Now, there is an opportunity for the new administrator to go to the superintendent and say, hey, I really need this person, please tell the other principal to let him go. I don't necessarily want to put an administrator in that position either, because that kind of has administrators undercutting each other as well. Not that I'm here to, do any real favors, but I think that would, as an administrator, that would put me in a position where I, would have to say, hey, give me Kerr's person. I really need him worse than he does. And so I think there might be some ground here to look at this idea of what a timeline is and an enforceable timeline. Because without language in the contract, it is essentially a bottomless pit, and there is no ability to hold anybody accountable for a mid-year transfer. And I know that employees, commit to a school for the year. They're under an annual contract, and the expectation is they're there for the year. But oftentimes employees don't seek, sometimes they seek unemployment because they are unhappy with their current working condition and the school they're at. Oftentimes it's to get closer to home and save money on gas or a childcare thing. And so I think there's an ability here for us to talk out this idea of the mid-year transfer with some timeline and some accountability.
Okay, there was your expansion on mid-year transfer. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add to story? Carl or Rob? Carl first? Okay. Mike's coming, Carl.
Never in my 39 years has it been more difficult, more disruptive to children to have mid-year departures. If you had brought this forward to me 10 years ago, because typically, I would say 4 years ago, whenever someone asked to leave my school, I was like, see ya. Because my ego would get in, I don't, now, on the flip side, I don't have that happen a lot into my ears. It doesn't happen a whole lot. But when it did happen, a few times it did happen, I would be, hey, if you need to find happiness somewhere else, then no hard feelings. Sometimes they would come running back in about 6 months. Because a lot of times I wanted to see the grass was not always greener, to be quite candid with you. We are in a crisis, and I don't say that as quickly now. Because I have a responsibility. Yes, I have a responsibility to all my employees. But then there becomes a domino effect. And I will, you know, and what I will tell you now, the flip side for teachers, never has been easier in the summer to find another location. Because there will be openings. Just because of what the state that we're living in right now. It's gonna be very, I'm just, you know, you guys have been around, it's gonna be very difficult, me knowing the state that we're in, and I know with the process, it would be very difficult for me to really see how this is the time to really go into a shift of that nature, knowing the repercussions that could. I understand the discussion. I understand the need to bring it up. The reality is that it will be a significant challenge. But the flip side, as I said before, wherever everyone's working at right now, there is no way there won't be an opportunity. Maybe not at their first location, just because of the state we're in. And I also understand the thing about trying to keep people as happy as possible. I get it. But what I'm saying that right now in our current state, it's very hard for me to support making that type of shift. Because what's typically happened over the years, matter of fact, if I say yes too quickly, the other principal will say, oh, wait a minute, that was too fast. What is it? Because sometimes it may be that they need another experience or they need a location. So those things happen. But right now, it's just, we're in a crisis, and I would be struggling to change the language the way it is, from where it is now, to put a time staple, because I've never, and I hate saying that because I always say for years, I just hate when people say, it's never been like this before. I can say that factually, it's never been that way before like it is now. So that's part of the story. We're in a time, in an era that it makes it very difficult to do that. And so we think about some of our interests. My interest would be, you know, actually, what's best for
staff morale, employee retention, compliance, manageability. Or you can add another one up.
I want to have the interest of student achievement,
okay,
as well as I'll think of another terminology. Student stability. It's rough. I never want to keep someone who doesn't want to be at my school. I never have. But now, with the way things are, you can advertise. It used to be a time I advertised a social studies position, I was going to have 40 applicants. Now, it's just tough. And I need to say that. That's part of the story.
It is part of the story. All right, thank you, Carl. Rob, did you? Okay, anybody else? Anna?
So I do agree with you, Carl, because I'm on my third partner teacher at the moment, and she's wonderful. So glad to have her. But it's been rough having those changes because as a departmentalized teacher, it has fallen onto me every time there's someone new there, behavior changes, all the different things. But on the flip side of that, I do think that there is a percentage of teachers when we talk about being able to retain our teachers, because I've had conversations with teachers this year that have told me, if I can't leave this school, then I'm leaving the district. And we are already having an issue with teachers leaving, going to Charlotte or to Collier County. So there's that piece of it too, is there are teachers who we could maybe keep in the district rather than lose them to Charlotte or Collier County, or lose them altogether with the field of education because they don't have an avenue to get out of the situation they're in. So I just want that as part of a piece of this as well. I don't want us to continually lose teachers while we are in this state of education.
Thank you. Kevin, did you have your hand up? Okay.
Thanks, Ava, for saying that. And Carl, I do understand, but I have a practical example. I had a teacher call me unhappy. Tried to get another job, couldn't. Collier County hired this person before they sent the reference forms to the old boss. Now listen, that could be a mistake. Listen, it is what it is. But this is where we live. So let's talk about where we live. We are the least paid district in Southwest Florida.
across every experience level. If I live in Bonita and I'm having a rough pull at a school in South Fort Myers, or I'm driving 20 minutes to the middle of Fort Myers, what's 20 minutes down south? Hired without a reference check? And $6,000 more a year. So I think we also need to appreciate the labor perspective on this, where when we say, oh, well, I gotta wait till your replacement, and they call me and I go, well, you know, maybe in 5 or 6 weeks they can appeal to the superintendent. Those people start looking. And now you don't need one, now you need two. So again, I'm not asking for, I got a job on Tuesday, good Lord, the next Friday I'm released. I think there's a timeline here that we as the people who are designated to do this and who have a collective 9 million years of experience across all levels of the school system can come up with something. If it's 6 weeks, if it's 7 weeks, again, I just think we really need to have this discussion and try to see if there's a thing, a place we can come up with stuff. But, you know, to lose one and need two is, you know, I just think we need to be able to look at our employees, because student achievement suffers if employees are unhappy. Student achievement suffers if employees take off work because they're sick of where they're at. Student achievement, as we say at this table many times, the greatest indicator of student achievement is a highly motivated, well-treated, effective or highly effective professional in the classroom. And so if I ask to leave because I'm having a rough day or a rough career, or I feel like I'm having problems, and you tell me no, I'll come to work because I got a mortgage or I got rent, but maybe I'm not as effective as I was the week before. And I'm not going to put Kelly Services on the spot on day one, but I'm sure there were no openings in the district today that needed people to cover. Kelly Services had it all covered. And you're right, we're all in this situation where everybody's short. We don't pay as much as other people. So instead of pay, we go, listen, if you're having a rough time and you need to make a mid-year transfer, we at least have language that other districts don't have that will allow you to take a different shot, because we've all seen it. There have been teachers that have not been successful in a school setting for whatever reason. They move to a new setting and it's a much better fit. We've seen it with administrators. We see it with everybody. You know, and we see it with students too. So the idea that no concession to this is okay is not sustainable for the system, because the superintendent at the Golden Apple thing said we hired 600 teachers this year. We lost 800. Let that sink in. We hired 6 and we lost 8. I'm not telling anybody who doesn't pay attention and isn't in school something they already know. We've got problems. Now, does this solve it? No. Carl, you said it too, like they could leave your school or any school and go over to this other school and go, good Lord, I had no idea how good I had it. And, you know, maybe some people need to see that. I taught at Royal Palm, to be honest with you. I don't think I'd ever go anywhere else. Royal Palm, for me, is the best teaching gig in the county. So I'm not going anywhere else. I know better. I've seen people leave schools and come back. So again, I'm not asking for a week. I'm asking for something we can point to and say, listen, if it's 6 weeks, then we can really have a process to get this done. Because again, what you're going to find is instead of needing one, you're going to need 2.
Okay, anybody else? Carl.
Well, first I will say this. The scenario that Kevin described, I know that to be true, because I had someone who left to go to Carter County, and they called for a reference, and I'm very honest. That's just who I am. And they took that person, I said, thank you, Jesus. And that was only about 2 years ago. Now, it did impact the rest of my team, because when we talk about employee morale, you know, because the first thing the rest of the that department asked, I heard that person's leaving. I thought they had to stay for the year. I said, no, they went to another district. But honestly, had I released them, because what was described earlier, it does impact those who are there. Most of your leaders at your school, and when there's a vacancy, it does impact you. That's just something we can't get around. It really does. Whether you're a math coach, whether you're a department head, whether you're a subject area, whether you're just a teacher on the team, it always does affect those who remain, who are dedicated to doing their best. And I think we all know that. But what you described, listen, when it happened, I was like, and what was ironic about it, exactly what I had said, because I'm trying to be cautious, what ended up happening, that teacher did not make it more than a few months before it. Anyway, they just had a big mess they had to deal with, but it was at least a Collier County piece. It wasn't Lee County. I said, thank you, God, they were not here with me. So, but that's the other thing. We said employment morale, every vacancy affects every staff. No, it's not like it was a few years ago. Each vacancy does affect the staff that remains. And you can't find someone. And I wish it was different.
Thank you. Rod?
So I think it's important to sort of outline the process the way it currently works.
Okay.
So for 2 years, when I ran human resources, occasionally, and I mean occasionally, not often, you would receive a call from a principal who is the receiving principal of someone that wants to transfer, saying, my colleague X will not let that person go until the position is filled that the person is leaving. So when I ran HR, I backed out of that process and referred the principals to their executive directors. So if it was an elementary, it may have been Dr. Johnston, and if it was middle school, it may be Ms. Neely. And those two EDs would talk about it with their principals and resolve it. I can tell you confidently, in 2 years, I never got one back. So they were resolved. Now, in Kevin's defense, the person may have left because it was taking too long. I can't vouch for that, but I can tell you that this is not a common thing. This isn't happening all the time. Often, as Carl described, often the principal's glad the person's leaving. So it has been exacerbated, though, and I have to acknowledge, by the teacher shortage. I mean, it really has. And I have said countless times, we're better off the person works in the district than somewhere else, even though it may not be at your school. So I guess my point is, I'm not sure, we usually come here to talk about language that's not working if we want to change it. I'm not certain it's not working. So, and the two principals here, along with Carl, Ben and Dr. Cole, can possibly weigh in too on this if they've been involved in it. But I hear what Kevin's saying, employees shouldn't be in limbo, but there is also the chance to transfer during the summer. They may be in a horrible situation, they have to get them out. And I think typically those situations have been worked through. Okay. So, I know that's anecdotal, I don't have statistics.
Right.
We probably could dig up statistics somehow to see how many people in the middle of the year have transferred. And that would be a good number to actually have.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just want to clarify, when you say mid-year transfer, are you talking about at mid-year when you do the transfers? Because some districts do that. So I just wanted to clarify if you were going at any time or mid-year.
I mean, during the school year, but if the compromise is at the semester, it's a start. I mean, if that's the compromise, and it's enforceable at the semester, then that's the start. I mean, and I have just as much anecdotal evidence on the flip side, where people are left to list in the wind without any kind of, reliable, enforceable kind of language. And again, to be honest with you, if I'm a principal and somebody's leaving me, and I don't have a timeline, I don't necessarily have an impetus to hire somebody. So, and again, if we're doing it at the semester, that could give as long as, 18 weeks to get somebody. So again, if I don't have something I have to, as an administrator, a timeline I have to follow, I can just prolong. It's and I don't want to get into phantom job postings and the jobs that are posted that aren't real jobs and all these things. But again, the idea that we won't even entertain this, that essentially you are in indentured servitude if the executive directors can't work it out, their benevolence can't make it happen, you are an indentured servant, and your only choice is to leave the district. That leaves people with the only choice, and you end up needing two. And then, again, yeah.
And
Okay, I'm gonna weigh in on this because I agree with Carl. It has, in the past, I would say the same thing. Go, you have my blessing. However, right now it is very difficult. The thing that I worry about though, and I think we need to be thoughtful about, is that I'm a West Zone principal, right? I don't have the same challenges probably that the East Zone principals have. And I'm very nervous that I'd be sitting pretty and have a full staff if we do this, because the East Zone schools would be empty. That concerns me, and I think that needs to be thought about. I'm just saying, needs to be thought about. And the other thing is, I also know that my teachers are exhausted from covering. They're tired, and so when somebody leaves, that gives them more work to cover, and I just am concerned about that for them.
And I too am sensitive to, and again, I don't want to paint the East Zone with a bad light, or in a bad light. And so I would argue the schools in the West Zone probably have less difficulty getting staff. But that brings up another thing that is not bargainable, which is the district hires. In other districts, the district hires. And they just tell people where to go. I'm not advocating for that. We have turnaround committee, and we're going through a revamp on that, right? And so there are mechanisms to make jobs in the East Zone more attractive, but it's not really always about money. We all know that. It's not always about money. If it were strictly money, we would have no employees, and Collier and Charlotte would have surpluses of employees, right? If it were all money, but it's not. So that also, it makes it incumbent upon us to set up the systems where, the East Zone schools are the schools that are a little more difficult to maintain full staff. We address that, and maybe we need to look at, every year as a principal for the past 10 years, 30% of your workforce is left. That's pretty interesting. I think we have that data. There are other places where, like Carl said at his school, not to single him out in a positive way, but where he has very few problems finding staff. And when staff leave, they beg to come back. But that's in any number of places around the district. There are administrators who go from one rough pull to another. Staff follows them. They have no difficulty getting people and keeping people. Then there are places where people run away from. So when we're looking at this idea of staffing at schools being kind of not equal, I think administrator and culture plays in it as well, but I can't solve that here. Like Jamie Michael used to tell people all the time, being a bad boss is not against the contract. And so that requires district accountability to recognize that, hey, I mean, I can guarantee you I can find a school where 30% every year leave. Guaranteed. And there's no performance plan. You know, let a teacher, 30% of a teacher's kids perform subparly on a measurement. There'll be a plan. And there'll be observations. So again, I think we do need to be sensitive to all of these things, because oftentimes, as we brought up here, a decision we make, even though we're all here and we've all been in the business for 1,000,000 years, a decision we make has unintended consequences. And sometimes adversely affects those students who need it the most, because if you look at the research, schools where students need the most effective teachers, the most experienced teachers, are far more likely to have a teacher who's fresh out of college, who doesn't last 3 years. I mean, it is what it is. That research is glaring. And so what do we do to address that as well? Because again, if I'm a new teacher and I get put in a place that's maybe, you know, a little rough around the edges, my whole experience with teaching gets sullied, and I'm more likely to leave the field than I am to do something else. But again, I think everybody's experiencing the same shortages. And I don't know where the language Elizabeth was talking about, but she said that there are places that have a mid-year. So maybe we find out if they're more adversely affected and they've got it figured out and they don't have shortages. But again, I mean, we got to have at least some nod to employee morale and the employees that service our students, I think.
All right, anybody else? Okay, it sounds like everybody agrees this is a problem in a lot of areas. I think I heard 2 requests for data. One, how many teachers actually transfer during the school year?
Sure. But we can't figure out how many requests, because that may not be there.
Right.
I mean, that data may not exist.
And the percentage of turnover in schools?
Per school for the past 3 years. I mean,
You said transfer mid-year?
during the school year.
During school year.
Okay, and then, percentage, I'm sorry.
Jill can explain it better.
So for the percentage, we want going back 3 years, the percent for each year, not like an average or a total percent over a 3-year time period. So like maybe year 1 was 10%, another year was 5%, we want it by year.
For school turnover, individual school turnover?
Individual school turnover, yes. Starting in FY '21.
I got you.
Transfers? Turnover, okay, thank you.
Okay, Rob.
So turnover is, believe it or not a term that is simply defined. So we have typically defined turnover as individuals that have either retired, left the district, and transferred within the district. So, but people that transferred within the district are really not, if you look at the SHRM, Society for Human Resources Management definition of turnover, transfers within the organization should not be considered turnover. So, not to confuse the issue, but we have the statistics that include internal transfers, at least for the last 2 years, since when I was in HR, because I presented it to the board. So we do have that.
All right, so internal transfers.
But that includes people that transfer, and so it's fairly high,
right,
because teachers move around.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw Kevin's hand up.
This was more of just clarification for turnover. Did you want to see that during the summer or just during the school year?
So during the summertime, during from.
So the whole school year?
No, So I would say from when the transfer period opens to when it closes each year. So it opens around March? No, it opens sooner than that, doesn't it? I believe transfers start, Carl, do you know, like usually around March, right? You start mid-March, right after spring break, you start advertising for the next school year, correct, usually?
Late March or early April.
Okay. Yeah, so we're talking from when that window opens, when a principal can initially offer someone a job for the next school year to when that window closes.
Okay. Did I answer your question, Kevin?
I just, it's different in 12 years.
Right. All right, thank you. Yeah.
Our data is July 1st to June 30th.
Fiscal year.
Yes. And that's what the board asks for, and that's the information they get.
Is that all right, doing that way? Jill, you made the request.
So the difficulty, I imagine, with that, from someone who's not working in a human resource setting, is a job transfer could go before the board prior to July 1st, and then that would skew what % of teachers are leaving a school. Am I?
Well, it would be caught on the previous year. I mean, I'm not sure. It's not like that person's not gonna go. It'll be part of the statistics, it just depends on what year. What I'm trying to do is not reinvent the wheel here. This is actually fairly involved work that Shelley Halstead used to do, who no longer is in the district, and her position hasn't really been replaced extensively. And so if we use our current data that's been provided to the board in presentations, that would be helpful. Because I'm not sure what point we're trying to use this for.
Right.
I mean, I understand the union's position as far as their issue.
Timeline, right.
Right, and we can certainly try to find out how many people transferred mid-year. And we can also tell you what the turnover rate was for fiscal year 23, fiscal year 22, for instructional and non-instructional.
Is that data that you can provide currently by school?
No, not what has been presented to the board. That's a separate piece of data. So, I'm not sure what purpose that serves.
All right, so go ahead, Anna.
Okay, so thinking a little bit about how the process that we have determined our turnaround schools in the district, we have included several different factors throughout the year as we determine our most fragile schools. Turnover rate has been a part of that since I've been a part of that committee. That as we ranked and we sorted, and it was by all schools, we looked at administrative, if the administrator was still there, the amount of teachers who were still at that school and left, the support staff, and schedule in. We looked at each category of employee at that school because the whole process was, in our most fragile schools, we wanted to continue to retain teachers there. And as we came up with a supplement, like all of this has been a conversation in the turnaround schools. We had that data. It was part of our sort, along with all the other Title I factors, free and reduced lunch, testing, school grade, all of that stuff has been, this exact information has been a part of that process all along. Right? Correct?
So you have it.
You guys have it.
Well, you said you were on the committee.
Yeah, but turnaround hasn't.
I mean, I haven't been part of the turnaround committee, so.
Turnaround hasn't met.
Turnaround, I'm sorry. Okay, fair enough.
We don't
then,
have, we don't have that information.
I have it for the last 2 years.
And then also, Rob, that information, while it was shared with us, it was shared at meetings. It wasn't stuff that was printed and handed to
Got
us.
it.
Because I think some things were maybe proprietary, or we wanted to be mindful about sending things out. So like, we didn't have hard copies of that information.
School names were redacted, right?
Yes, and school names were redacted until we made our decisions for our top schools. And then at that point, we only saw the names of the top schools. We didn't always look at all the others.
Okay.
All right, I think we're getting a little bit off of the original topic about school year, during the school year transfers, and we're looking at a bigger picture here, so, Shay?
We are kind of getting off, but part of the reason for the data request is because it's a little easier to look at the schools that are having the higher turnover, because those are also the schools that sometimes start with the lowest amount of teachers, let's say staff, yes, thank you. And then, because those schools are struggling a lot of times, I mean, I work in one of them, we lose teachers constantly. So they kind of go hand in hand to an extent.
Okay. All right, anything else on this topic? Kevin?
I guess I have another data request, and that's if Elizabeth could share some of the language she's found. Not tonight, again, not tonight. This is clearly a radical idea, and so not tonight, but Carl looked too, but if Elizabeth, our database is Florida-centric, but Elizabeth may have access to things outside more easily than this.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? It sounds like we can't get much beyond story until we have that information.
Well, I have an option, but it's dead on arrival, but I'm not even putting it up.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I have an option if pressed. I have an option, but I think maybe, yeah, you're right. I think this is story tonight and the data next time.
Yeah, you asked for a lot.
And this could be an all-encompassing 19 meeting. We talk about it a little every time before we get to it.
Okay. Okay, you all right with that? Just moving on?
19 meetings.
No, not 19 meetings. No, we haven't scheduled 19 meetings, so.
I have always been in favor of the sleepover session. I believe we would get more done at 2 in the morning.
Carl has his hand up.
I just want to add this back to Rand regarding the data. Just being cognizant that, for instance, sometimes, generally what I do, when I have a job that's open, I generally don't really look at those who are at a school, especially a high-need school, because I know the damage it would done. So I really have always considered those from outside the district. So many of my people are at my school, people I've brought from somewhere else. So some of that, and I say that to say that the other thing I've done too, sometimes I've called the principal ahead of time to say, hey, tell me the story about this person. Number one, did they tell you they were looking? Because to me, that says something about their professionalism. I'm always big on that, were they upfront about that? But two, how would it negatively impact your school? So sometimes I didn't even really proceed with due diligence because I did not want to negatively impact another school. So some of the data, just understand there could be some other pieces. I know it just gives us sort of a snapshot, but it may not be totally accurate, because that's always been, I kind of was like, I'd rather, and be honest with you, sometimes if they were with certain leadership, I'd rather get them with me first and let me kind of bring them into my culture, as opposed to some, perhaps where they work. So just be aware of that. As we look at the data, there'll be some scrubbing that may need to be part of that. We may go back into the story a little more.
Right. There's always other factors involved. All right, anything else? All right, as to be continued, I guess. It is 6:30. We have also for Article 5, this language for employees that leave virtual school, TALC dress codes, and I know there was a data request with that, and I know we said annual contract teacher one is on hold. Did we get the request, the data request to talk about? Go ahead, Rob.
So there has been a Google Doc created so schools can drop their dress code, I shouldn't say dress code, their handbooks into the document. We have received some, but not close to all. The executive directors were reminded today to remind their principals or senior administrative assistants to please do that. So
okay,
that's the update on the status of that.
Okay, so it's in the works.
I can provide kind of a high-level overview. You would probably believe that as we sat here and discussed this, my email box lit up with dress codes from different school handbooks. And someone even found the board policy that discusses what the blanket dress code is, I guess, for the district. But I'll just say, we can dig into this next time, but they're all over the place. Some allow people to wear jeans all the time. Other schools require a $5 donation, some require $80 a quarter. Some schools, the administrator provides or has sole discretion on how long a skirt can be, or how long pants can be. You may be surprised that somebody that works at more than one school, a dress code may be, or their dress may be to code at one school and not at another school. And we have a very strong interest in standardizing all those. And the fact that in 2024, we're making teachers pay to wear jeans, I think is just unconscionable. So that's kind of our high-level overview, but I'm really interested in getting the rest of the dress codes because I've only got a few.
Okay, so that's, yeah, Rob.
I don't want to look at wearing one that they pay $1,000.
So Carl doesn't permit jeans. But I will say that, and I say this knowing what happens in this building, that jeans is part of a fundraiser. I suspect a lot of that is going on in schools to raise money for whatever cause it may be, even supplies for students. So I don't know if there is a policy in any school that says the money's going to the school's general fund and it's $80 to wear jeans. I mean, I had to speak up about that. I just don't want to believe that is happening. And if you can show me that's happening, I will obviously talk to that principal immediately.
I wasn't clear. In a lot of the excerpts, it does say it goes to the Sunshine Fund, but why are we fundraising off the backs of our employees? I think that's a really important item for discussion. And the fact that it's disparate. Why is one thing good at, I'm just gonna make up some schools. Why is one dress okay at Pine Island Elementary School and not okay at Eastleigh County High School? And dress code is a term and condition of their employment, so it's entirely bargainable. I think it's time to have this discussion.
With more information. So, not tonight. Okay, so that takes care of dress code for tonight. And the only thing left is Lee Virtual School. Do we want to dig into that tonight, or Kevin?
Yeah, I think we can do kind of a little more of a high-level overview of, because again, I think many of the things that the Lee Virtual folks have asked about don't necessarily require a Lee Virtual article. So one of the things they brought to our attention is meetings. the length of the meeting. In the contract, the length of the meeting is not determined, therefore there is no closure to the length of the meeting. Also, notice around meetings. They are sometimes told, meetings are tomorrow or in 2 days. But again, this is an issue. I mean, I remember Royal Palm, Rob, and before him, Dan and Ron used to say, our meetings are the third Tuesday of the month. And unless I tell you it's not, and odds are I'm going to tell you it's not a lot of times. But the idea that, that there's no notice, and so that issue can be folded into another part of the contract. So there are a lot of things here that I think are a general employment kind of working conditions thing. Article 7 that can be folded up into stuff to benefit, all teacher kind in the district. So I think Kerr has some other things. Yeah, and so the idea of caps, for me, the cap idea goes to coverage, or, maybe the idea of revamping that old adjunct, the virtual position.
Caps on what?
Caps on student load. And this is another thing that's why I'm putting it with coverage, right? Because other people don't have caps. But if we entertained this idea theoretically a few years ago, that if the average class size was 25, and you got to 30, you got a little more money per kid, or you got to 27, you got a little more money per kid. And there are lots of districts around the nation, I think Portland is the latest one, to move to this model of not necessarily class size conformity, but the idea that more students and higher class sizes are more of a work on teachers and they probably should be compensated more. Now, I tell people all the time, I can't force you to go out and Shanghai people, right? We are incredibly short and have been short, and everybody is short. So I can't compel you to hire. I wish I could, but then I don't know where we get people from anyway. But I can't compel you to hire. So the common sense thing to do is to talk about a cap on the amount of students in general and see how, without unintended consequences, which is always a rough thing, but how we talk about how that is compensated additionally once a certain workload threshold has been reached for all teachers. Again, coming at the Lee virtual angle, but then affecting all teacher kind.
Okay. Anything else, Rob?
I'll just say, not really in response, but along with what Kevin said, we agree that the contract applies to the virtual teachers as it's currently written. If there's a clarity request for length of meetings, some other working conditions, we're certainly here to listen to those. Regarding caps, the great thing about virtual schools is they have been around long enough now where there is actually research available. So I encourage, I've done some, I understand that, I'll use a number, Florida Virtual has an average, their teachers have an average of 162 students in their caseload, if that's how we describe it, caseload class. So, and virtual teachers generally have 1.65 times as many students as brick and mortar teachers do. So, and that's research that's been done at the university level. So, we have some things to look at. I think it should be data-based. I know Robert's a big part of the virtual school faculty and is very informative at times, so I'm sure he has some information too. And here to listen and flush some of this out.
Okay. Kevin?
Yeah, we found the same Florida virtual school thing, but again, it said the average was 162. It also said core classes had less, electives have more, which I think any administrator here will agree that, your third grade class has, 38 or 40 or 50 or whatever it is these days, but PE may have 250, right? And the same things happen at the high schools in the non-tested subjects. They tend to skew a bit larger in class size. So I think when you say it's 162, that's an average kind of across the board. And I think we need to differentiate, like the idea of, okay, if it's a core tested class, maybe 162 isn't the right number. And I don't know how we get that information from Florida Virtual. We looked for elementary numbers and couldn't find it. Like, they did not publish what their elementary caseload is. And I'm just gonna say caseload because, to me, it seems more like an IEP situation where you have students you're working with. And so it seems more like a caseload situation to me. But I do think we need to look at this, but I think we also need to bring this into the brick and mortar settings and understand that ever increasing class sizes leads to more work by the teacher. And so, I'm handing it to Jill, she's dying.
Go ahead, Jill.
I have a possible data request because I don't know if this information is something that we can pull. So I'm gonna ask principals a question. Are you able to, through Focus, print a list where maybe would have like the teacher's name and the total number of students they have at your school? Are you able to pull a report like that? Like where it might say like Castellano and I have 150 kids, Witten has 135, Pearson has 160. Are you able to print something like just a general like basic roster with total students? I don't, because you guys have a different focus than I do.
Rob says yes. Carl says pretty sure.
I'm curious what your focus is, Joe.
If you do it by the.
No, that was just a joke. She said I have a different focus than you, so I didn't know.
I have teacher focus.
What you have access to, I understand. Yeah, I think there is, Mark.
If you do it by teacher. Yeah, exactly. If you do it by teacher and say like the period that they're in, you can pull like you can get that advanced report for teacher and student, and the teacher schedule report also. You can see the number of students are in each classroom for each teacher. It's like a couple clicks. Okay.
Can you see what subject that teacher is teaching?
Yeah, and you can see what the subject is.
So because the reason I'm asking is I would like to see maybe sample data from the district, like a couple high schools, a couple middle, a couple elementary because we see that Florida, for example, Rob, you said Florida virtual, the average caseload is 162, but that's just making an average. If we could see like a variety from each school, so we could say, hey, like PE teachers at the high school level have about this many in our district. A couple schools from each zone to give us an example of what is a typical caseload for a U.S. history teacher, for a Algebra 1 teacher in our own district.
Yes, go ahead, Rob.
So I thought we were bargaining Florida virtual school. We're now comparing them to history teachers at X middle school. I mean, that's a lot of work, what you're asking for. And I'm not sure what benefit that's going to provide us. Kevin has mentioned in his comments caps in other areas, which was not what we were bargaining. Well, we're bargaining Florida virtual school. So I'm not sure what, and there is a class size amendment.
Well,
which FEA supported.
Well, wait a minute, before I'll address the class size amendment. And I was going to give the microphone to Heather because she had a question. The idea, and that's why I'm saying it goes under coverage. The cap fix is under coverage. So again, when we look at Florida virtual school and we say, it's 162 average, but electives are more, and then we compare them to our caps, I was honestly giving her a microphone. And she's really like, why is he lower number? But again, we can take this opportunity and address everybody else. I don't think Lee Virtual needs its own article. Like you said, they're covered by the contract. So if we want to talk about caps on caseload for Lee Virtual, then maybe we should look on caps on caseload for counselors and nurses and figure out what we're going to do when we go over those caseloads. And so, yeah, we're talking about Lee Virtual, but the application of this idea is for everybody. Because I'm going to tell you, the nurses have given me, and the counselors have given me as well, their recommended caseload from their parent national organizations. There's a lot of high schools that maybe should have 7 counselors.
according to their parent organizations. If that's what they recommend and they're the experts, and we're sitting at 3, the workload doesn't go away for the 4 people that the parent organization has recommended be there. So what I think when we talk about leave virtual and caps, or anything else, the idea is to, maybe it's good to have notice about meetings in the contract for everybody. Maybe it's good to have the length of meeting in the contract for everybody. Leave virtual, it seems to be the vehicle through which we may solve problems that are other places that we are unaware of.
Do you still want to ask the question? Did I get it? Okay, so I'm good? All right, I'm gonna go back here, thanks. I really didn't mean to like stand and talk, because that's a whole different thing, but I just, yeah.
Anybody else?
And we can talk about the class size amendment too, because though Florida, the FEA may have supported it, the first thing the legislature did was water it down, and they've watered it down every consecutive year, and this year, in fact, they've taken away the only mechanism that holds any district accountable, which is the fine. So that's been taken away as well. So there is a class size amendment, you're absolutely right. But there is no enforcement mechanism, and there is no accountability mechanisms for districts to ignore. And in the past couple of years, I believe this district has, at least last year, just paid the fine. And as we all know from daycare, once they tell you it's 5 minutes every minute after 6 o'clock, it no longer becomes, I need to be there by 6, it becomes, how many minutes can I buy tonight? So again, we're looking at this through the Leave Virtual lens, but it has applications across the contract.
All right, Rob?
Just to clarify for the record, and Dr. Desmore can correct me, she's not here now, but I do not believe the district has ever paid a fine for class size, ever.
All right, thank you. All right, so back to Article 5. Is there anything else in Article 5 that is part of this Leave Virtual discussion? Because I know I heard Article 7 too might be part of it. Per?
Yeah, Article 7 will have some implications as well, but we can talk about that next time.
Okay, so any more in Article 5?
I don't think for today.
Okay. So we started the story, had the discussion, it is 6:49. Do we need to clarify or start anything else tonight? All right. Rob? Our next meeting is March 11th.
Yes.
At 4 o'clock, and all the meetings are gonna be here, and all the meetings will be here, unless something happens, right? But as of now, we're here. All right, so with that, thank you, everybody, and we will see you March 11th.